Welcome back to my Legends Expanded Universe chronological timeline rating, where I go through the expanded universe according to my personal chronological timeline order and rank each and every individual piece of EU media out of a 10-point scale. Well, we are finally here. 15 issues in, and finally we are at the end of the Dawn of the Jedi comic books. We are here with Dawn of the Jedi Force War number 5, the final issue of the Force War arc, which of course is the final issue of the Dawn of the Jedi comic series. Now, I love this comic overall. It's been a great journey, but how does the last issue stack up with the rest? Well, we re-enter with, Zesh and Skalnus landing down at the very base of Tython, and they avoid some acid that zapped some of their Rakatan underlings who were there with them, and land on some rocks, and they're there at the Infinity Gate, and this is a Prime Gate, which I didn't remember there was a designation for something like that. So there's Infinity Gates, and then the biggest, the best Infinity Gate that is said can transport anywhere in the galaxy is called the Prime Gate. So this is a Prime Gate for the Infinity Gate, and the bad thing here is Skalnus can now use it to plunder the entire galaxy and really expand the Rakatan Infinite Empire. So something I did neglect to mention this entire comic run is the Rakatans are losing their force power. Something I would have liked to see is Skalnus himself begin to lose his force power, but he never does. He's still using his force power just as strong as at the beginning. But meanwhile, kind of on the surface, Seknos and Kwanjang fight side by side, dispatch some of the last Flesh Raiders, and so now they're together, and Trill is still at large up there, keep in mind, and she has been filet mignoning a lot of Jedi. Meanwhile, down in the chasm, Shay and Dagan land with their Dragon Rancor, and they're there to find Zesh. But Dagan uses the mind thing on Shay, and she's seeing her dead parents and how they'd be disappointed in her, moving her to tears. And she sees Zesh, and she's very sad. But then she kind of, overcomes Dagan's Force illusions in her mind and, further is convicted that she must save Zesh, or Tau. And, so, yeah, I'm not sure why Dagan did that, if that would just empower her to, be more firmly convicted about what she's there to do instead of kill him. I think Dagan made a big mistake there. Then back on the surface, Trill is absolutely destroying Jedi. You see them flying off hills when she's done with them, but at the same time, Seknos is absolutely wrecking some Flesh Raiders and throwing them around like ragdolls. So the former lovers meet in battle. Trill on one side, and Seknos on the other. But Trill is wielding the Jedi Force Saber, and Seknos is wielding the Rakatan Force Pike. So they've got the opposite colors as what they had been wielding earlier. And Seknos does a really crazy force blast that sends her down, and then he does something that I don't watch anime, but I'd expect it to be an anime. He does a sky beam force blast down onto her. So that's what he does to Trill. And then Kwanjang keeps fighting and ignores as Seknos walks away with her body. So she's probably not dead, she's probably unconscious, but he just walks off with a frown on his face with her. This is my favorite character from the series, and that is the last time we see him. That's why this really needed to continue. They were obviously setting something up. They had something in mind, but we never got to see the fruits of that setup. So I'll never know what Seknos was, doing by kidnapping Trill. It seemed very sinister. Meanwhile, Skalnas and Zesh see Dagan coming up on them, And Dagon engages Skalnas in battle, and he's got a wild look in his eyes, and he's there to kill. And meanwhile, Zesh, who's still brainwashed, kind of fights with Shay, and they're angry and emotions are high, And then Dagon has the Force move used against him for the first time. So before, his move kind of backfired when he got lost in someone else's vacant mind, but he's never before had the Force probe mind thing done to him, because Skalnas now does it to him, and he is terrified because he sees all the people he's killed and let down, and they're screaming in anguish, and they're very demonic looking, and Dagon falls unconscious. He can't take it, and so Skalnas then, stabs Dagon, and Dagon hits the ground, stabs him straight through. So I was thinking that's the end of Dagon, but it is not. Meanwhile, Zesh and Shakota keep fighting, and then the Infinity Gate is opened. Oh no, Skalnas has accomplished what he was there to attempt. So Shay and Zesh stop fighting momentarily because the Infinity Gate is open, and wow, look at the power of it. And you see planets unfold out of the Infinity Gates, and Skalnas is like, "Behold the galaxy!" And Shay reconnects with Zesh, breaks him out of his mind control. I love you. And then Zesh goes for Skalnas, and Zesh hands it to Skalnas in a battle. And meanwhile, Tasha is up at the top, and I don't fully still understand what happened, but she gets absorbed into the Force, and suddenly she can see again, but then when she comes out of it, she can't see again. I'm not sure if it was a vision or a prophecy or whatever happened there, but she started floating in the air, Stranger Things style, in a bright blue beam of energy, which was strange for sure. And then the Thoyors all connect as the Infinity Gate lines up, which was really cool. So all of the Thoyor pyramids have this bright yellow energy connect to all of them, which was really cool. And but they have to evacuate because they're kind of on fire. So there's a shot of Turs Sendin running, and Rajaviri, run, evacuate. Meanwhile, in front of all these planets through the Infinity Gate, Zesh continues to duel Skalnas, and he deals the final blow to Skalnas, and he says, "This is not betrayal, this is rebellion." It's a little early, in my opinion, to have someone self-describing their actions as rebellion. That's not for 25,000 more years, or give or take. Actually, a little more, maybe more like 25,800 some. So yeah, he kills Skalnas, lets him melt into the Infinity Gate, closes the gate, and calls it a day. And the chasm starts to blow up for some reason, unexplained, just explosions. The radiation did something, and fly out with the Dragon Rancor, with Dagon, Zesh, and Shay. And then they really rush the ending. Two pages is the satisfying conclusion to this huge war that's been going on this whole time. It just So Rajaviri and Ketu were talking with Dagon Locke, and they're like, you could have a place in the Jedi again, but they want everyone to give up their Force sabers. Now that the war is over, there's no use of them. But Dagon's like, I've grown attached to it. This stood between me and death for many, many years, for a whole year during the war. I'm not going to give it up. I'm going to keep it. And so he activates it and storms off. And he says, this place is no place for me. It's no place for a hero. And I'm not sure what he meant by that, but it's implied he's starting his own Jedi sect, which will probably evolve into dark side followings, perhaps an early incarnation of Sith teachings kind of instilled. Meanwhile, Zesh and Shay celebrate their win, and walk off into the galaxy together. And, they're going to face whatever comes next in life together. And it's a really nice panel, though, of them walking off into the sands, the stars all around them. That was a nice panel, sure. However, this was a really rushed ending to this series. Unfortunately, I was not a fan of this last issue. And that's not good when it's the climax of everything that it's been building towards. When you're not satisfied with it, that's just not a very good thing, unfortunately. So, I would have to give this a 3 of 10. It just felt very rushed. It felt like they had to wrap up because, Disney's making Force Awakens and canceling the EU. Gotta finish the storyline. And it felt very sloppy, very rushed. And rereading, I had always thought Force War, all of it felt rushed. And while it did feel somewhat rushed, issues 1 to 4 didn't feel as rushed as the finale. The finale issue, number 5, felt extremely rushed. The other issues felt more or less evenly paced. So for that reason, this gets a lower rating than the others for this series. Unfortunately, I have to give this one a 3 of 10. It was just not a satisfying conclusion to this comic series. And I think maybe that's why Dawn of the Jedi gets hate. It doesn't have a satisfying ending. It doesn't have the ending to the Legacy comics. Or, the ending to the Knights of the Old Republic comics. Or the Tales of the Jedi comics, That may be why it generated some backlash from the fans, but I really thought this overall was an amazing series. I really enjoyed it. A lot of people say it's bad, or at best they say it's okay. I think this is really good. From the art to the story to the characters, most of this is really solid. Fortunately, this issue didn't live up to the rest of the series. It was a rushed conclusion. The art was good. Character motivation felt a little bit strange. That's because they were rushing it. So this gets a 3 of 10 for me. But what about you guys? What would you give the final issue of the Dawn of the Jedi comic books out of 10?